Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Korra build that we've been working on in Planet Coaster. We're going to be working on the front plaza a little bit today and also some of the training areas that are featured in front of the temple. Now this is going to be quite the open air space, and it's also going to help dictate a lot of the proportion and scale to the mountainside, so also the other outbuildings such as the women's dorm, the specifically like the air bending training areas where those spinning kind of wooden elements are there to help you feel the flow of air. But this main section here is just the pathway up to the temple, and then also the raised bit that has what looks to be some sort of fighting practice arena. And the octagon here will have some pretty cool elements. We do have to establish kind of the size and scale of things in such a fashion that we can copy and paste this thing around and use it efficiently. I don't want to make the octagon here incorrect like I did the pagoda previously. The six-sided hexagon that we made is not quite right. So this octagon here is going to have 135 degree angles, the interior angles, and it's going to be a perfect 8-sided shape. So luckily there. Now we're gonna have to do something interesting to make this a usable template to use. And number one, we will kind of copy the octagon all the way around so that I can first check the proportions, see roughly how big it is, and if it's going to be the size that I want it to be, because at this point it would be easier to make the sides of the octagon shorter or longer if needed. And then I need to find the center point. Now the center point is going to be found by drawing these boxes off of two of the main sides, and that's going to give us an interior square. Now once you have that interior square, simply rotate the edges about 45 degrees, and that's going to give you the exact center point of this octagon. I could have found it a little bit different, but not having quite the correct length items to work with is hard to do just point-to-point centerpieces, so I had to do the center square initially just so I have something quick to work with, and I don't have to eyeball that angle quite as much. Now that we have this slice of pie, we're going to detail it out. We're gonna put some nice white stone kind of elements across the bottom, and this is going to just make up the base floor. The base floor will then be copied and pasted around, obviously, and then also we will test out the octagon shape a little bit later, just so I know everything is going to be lining up right. And I just do these checks from time to time whenever I'm working on a symmetrical build or working on anything that I'm copying and making a tile set for. You want to check it from time to time so that at least it's still making some sense. So this piece of pie here, looks good. We have that wooden trim. Put some pepperoni on it and you could eat it. We get some cool little stripes that go across the top here. And I don't really know what these are for or why they're really necessarily there. Maybe just to give spacing or reference points so that they can practice in certain zones and quadrants, or maybe it's just a decoration and they thought it looked cool. Who knows? It's not something that I didn't really fully research, so it's just guesswork at this point. Now these do taper off, and you'll see that this initial stripe here, I actually kind of goofed, and one of them became much longer. Like, I think the left one was much longer than the right one, and so it just looked really weird. And the solution that I came up with was simply not worrying about the intricate details of the interior of these stripes, because otherwise I'd be there for a couple hours, and I think more stuff needs to get done per episode for you guys. So I'm going to delete those interior angles, make it a solid stripe here in a second, and then also just measure out kind of the general spacing of the other stripes here. Give it a test, take a look at it, maybe even figure out how the center piece here, this is going to have a yin-yang symbol in the middle, and I want to see roughly the scale of the arena here, just so that I know how big that inner circle is going to be. And also to see if these stripes and things line up correctly when copied around. You know, this is also just working with tile sets for me. It is not something I fully trust 100% of the time, so I do like to test it out. I had to rebuild the stairs. I think I accidentally either backspaced it out or deleted it at some point. So now we know the wedges are correct. We can get our full octagon in there. And I need to measure out the actual angles of the exterior of these lines, because they need to taper inwards like a slice of pie, with a slice of pie on top of it. And these black lines also, you know, we're going to be skipping over the interior details, even though I'm kind of marking out that interior space. That's something that not all sides are the same. And so we're going to have to individually do that. I'll probably do that in between episodes so that you guys don't get to see me work on the same thing for 2 episodes in a row. But, you know, establishing that outer angle at least will save us time when we're doing kind of the interior angles and at the different stages. So some of them are at the first level, kind of the smaller one, and then some of them are at the top, middle, you know, it kind of just alternates around. It's a very interesting shape in general. But now that we have the exterior kind of built here, we'll go ahead and copy it one final time so that we can move ahead to the next bit as soon as possible. Also, we'll have to delete all those little wooden frames. Those wooden frames are also helping me align all these pieces so that I know nothing's too off. And now we can work on that yin-yang symbol here. And what I'm doing to do this effect, I think the Tunnel of Love helped me a lot with this, you know, doing all those hearts using these half circle kind of bits, is I'm going to make a top layer of black so that I'm able to simply just fill in beneath it using the white. Now, I can't quite fully do that on the left side because of how that's going to intersect with the already established black. So we'll have to overlap a little bit of the white there, but most of the white is actually underneath the black, and that's saving us a little bit of time having to worry about getting this exactly right. Here you can see the black just sitting up there, and this is probably one of the best symbols I've ever made in Planet Coaster using the shapes. It's a very clean, nice representation of the yin-yang symbol. Obviously, you know, yin and yang having just a bit of it each other in it, you know, the light and the dark, dark and the light, etc. And then we're going to just surround it with some stairs. The one half of it is actually butting up against the edge of the raised platform, so it won't have any stairs like we're doing everywhere else. And I think that's a pretty interesting design in general, just because you get a interesting break in height, and it's just very nice on the eyes. Whenever you're able to fit these height breaks in there, it's always encouraged. Whether you're working on a house, you know, you can put a balcony, or you are working on a roof line, you know, having different height levels gives you a place to kind of rest your eye, kind of little lines to trace around and to fill in some detail in your mind as well. But overall, the stage is set, and it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with just how this thing turned out. I did have to fudge some of the angles on the exterior there just to make it start and work correctly with that staircase. But that's normal. From a distance, you're not going to tell that it's not quite matching up, and it gets a little thinner. We'll also add an additional white element around the edge, and this is going to create some additional pathing details. We're also going to do this, you know, along the main pathway as well. And this is kind of the common theme that's going to match the rest of the temple. You know, you're going to have a thick band of white followed by a nice pinstripe of white along it. We're using the bricks just because of how much thinner they are, and they're still colorable. We also need to match the terrain to this new stage, which we'll do here near the end, and also kind of finish cobbling out the rest of the general shape here. obviously using some of the roof tiles. Now this is made up of multiple buildings, as you guys know, and that's something, if you want to get very complicated in Planet Coaster, that's something that people are going to have to practice, integrating multiple buildings, multiple angles, and multiple materials to get the effect they desire. Now luckily this forward-facing retaining wall is going to be covered a lot with trees, bushes, and things that are just kind of at the top of the cliff. I do really like that overall plaza though. It's just the steps down into that overall artistic symbol. It's something that I've never really done in Planet Coaster beyond maybe the Pokemon Park when we did that Master Ball, kind of just in the playground area. And it turns out really well, you know. It's not something I do very much, and even in my pathing in parks is trying to work kind of more stylized colors along the path to make it look more interesting. Here, some of the terrain being sculpted just so we can bring out the mountain, bring it forward. It actually ends right here in this section so that we can get a pretty long and steep staircase down the front, and this staircase will eventually wrap around, go through a couple different areas, and lead you to the main dock where, you know, everyone arrives at and can be picked up. Now, I hope that we don't go too far down, because what we're going to run into is the fact that what you're seeing at the bottom there is actually the bottom of the map already. So we don't have much vertical wiggle room at this point. We're set in stone. We have a lot of set pieces that can't be changed. You know, I can't move the pagoda anymore because after a certain part limit, it can't even be moved. And that's going to be something to watch out for going forward. It's something that I didn't notice until about now, actually reviewing some of the footage. But we will get some rocks and greenery along the edge of the main courtyard here, and that'll line the kind of flat-facing section of the little combat arena, and hopefully kind of make it look a little bit more colorful and make that whole section pop out. So let's go ahead and take a look at it real time and see what you guys think. Okay, so here we are. This is the finished little combat arena and training stage for the airbag, and it's, you know, right in front of their temple here, right in front of kind of the main pathway up into the area, and it's a pretty decent size. I do like the overall kind of command of space it has. Also off camera I kind of built this little entry gate here. It's nothing too fancy. It just has a nice blue tile roof, very similar to the main temple. It's a couple stories tall, has a nice flat front, and is held up by quad pillars here just to give it some extra thickness. Yeah, and it casts a pretty neat shadow to the left and right of their entryway there. And it is there in the reference images, so that is something I needed to get in there. But, you know, we have some nice greenery on top of the hillside. Now, we might end up taking some of this away, adding some of this. This is mainly just kind of placeholder stuff so that we can kind of move on and start getting a feel for how this whole island and mountainside is going to start looking. You know, we're going to be mixing in those yellows, the reds, to get little patches of color, you know, very similar to back there. We're also going to have to start work on the women's dorm, which is going in this section right here. As you can see, I already actually marked out the width of the staircase that's going to lead you up to the main plaza that it has, because there's plenty of plazas in this build. There's a lot of open spaces. You know, air temples, they do like to get around by flying through the air and things, so it does make a little bit of sense as to why it's so open. And that yin-yang sign is totally blinding me there. But yeah, the staircases and stuff, you know, while people are sparring and training, people can have a sit and watch. I'm sure that's part of the reason it's there. Also, it does give a nice little break to the arena itself. Possibly even, you know, knocking them off this direction could give you a win. Who knows? I don't know why they would set this up so close to the cliff edge. But hey, this is a fantasy world, so you don't really have to necessarily worry about it. Now, once we get this other structure built, this plaza does expand outwards. We have some, it's probably going to go out to about there. or so. We're going to have an additional training area in this section. I believe there is the White Lotus building out to the bottom right here, the woman's dorm, and then the mountainside kind of finishes off. So we're almost done with the right side if you think about it. I think the actual top of the mountain will stop about this far over, and then we can just blend this over, start thinking about how to blend this to the box that we made of the edge of the map, because that's something I want to do as well. But overall, the build's going really well. We have to make a little plaza down here, and then I think the staircase, because there's going to be like one, maybe two more of these types of staircases here, it might end pretty much right at the bottom level there, and we'll see how well that handles. It looks like we might even have some room to go down still. Oh my goodness, we do. Would you look at that? In the speed build, I thought I hit all the way ground level, but it looks like I have not. So that means we will be able to make the mountain taller if that's something we need to do. So that's good to know. That is great to know, actually, because I was a little worried about that during the commentary phase. But yeah, the woman's dorm is going to have a blue roof. You know, we might have to expand one or two extra tile pieces here from our normal tile set just so we have a little bit more versatility going forward. But I think overall, I think we're making good progress. And do let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're new. Check out my other videos. I do creative stuff like this on the channel all the time in multiple games and media. And until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode.